Were you bullied in school before you ever started wearing makeup and you were called ugly and in the moment that you were allowed to start wearing makeup, you just started wearing it every single day, kind of like a shield, like to protect yourself? But then you grew up a little bit and you started realizing it was really kind of hindering you. Like makeup before you ever walked outside was so normal for you that it kind of started to feel like it was controlling your life. Like you did not feel comfortable going out without it, and you didn't want to have other people see you without makeup. Basically, it became a shield that you hid behind, and now you've been wearing it so much that when you look in the mirror, like you identify with the makeup version, the painted over version of yourself to the point where maybe when you take your makeup off at night, you look at yourself in the mirror and you don't feel love. You don't feel, you just criticize the way you look because it started with that little seed of bullying saying, you know, that you were ugly when you were little, and now it's just something that is in your head. You feel that way, and you've identified with the makeup so much that it is now who you are, who you identify with, but you don't like this and you want to get over that. You want to figure out a way that you can feel good and okay going out without makeup because it just feels like it's kind of controlling your life. So that's what I'm talking about today. And specifically in relation to being bullied in school because kids are mean. Okay, there's a lot of bullying going on. Um, and now that we have technology, it's like bullying that never stops because you have social media, you have everyone connected through Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. And so the bullying just can keep going on even when you're out of school. I was personally lucky to grow up. Like, I'm 40 years old right now. So when I grew up, there were no cell phones, there was no internet, when I was a kid. And so when I would go home, I'd have a reprieve from the bullying. But then when I go to school, I would get bullied. So I want to share a little story with you, and I want to see if you can relate to this. Okay, so when I was in fifth and sixth grade, I was living in Honduras, and I went to this Christian school, and one of my coworkers, one of my classmates, I'm not going to name names, but she gave me the nickname La Gringa Fea, which is the ugly gringa. And throughout all of fifth and sixth grade, this was what she called me, and it was always very kind of like if she walked by me, she'd spit it out, and, just she had all this hatred towards me and kept calling me, I was ugly. And so at a very young age, I got into my head that, oh, I'm ugly, I'm not pretty, and there was one day specifically that um, kind of added on to this. So I had this cherry lip balm. Like it was like a tinted cherry lip balm that I loved. It smelled amazing. But I never wore it to school because we weren't allowed to wear makeup. And this wasn't makeup though, it was just a lip balm. So one day I decided to wear it to school. And since it was tinted, like my lips were just a little bit redder than they would normally be. And I remember, so this school, when the bell would ring, we'd all have to line up, and we they specifically put us in a certain line. So this one classmate that used to bully me was stationed behind me. So every morning when the bell would ring, she'd be right behind me. That was another like easy way to, bully me. But this one day, and I only did it one day because I wore this lip balm one day, and we would always, so we'd line up and then they would pray. And so that one day when they were praying, she was behind me basically saying like, "Oh, you thought that you could wear makeup and it would make you look pretty," and like she just went on and on about the lip balm. And so what this translated into, and I did not realize this. So, sometimes when you're a little kid and you're getting bullied, like, okay, that one person is bullying you, but then when you move to a different school. Like, so I moved a lot when I was younger. So it was every 1 or 2 years I was in a different school. So I only had 2 years with her. And, but those 2 years, I did not realize how much it impacted me until, I got into, I didn't even realize that was where it stemmed from until I was probably late into my 20s. I started making the connection, but the moment my parents allowed me to start wearing makeup, I did. And I would wear foundation, I would wear eyeliner, thick black eyeliner, I would wear mascara, I would wear sometimes eyeshadow, but a lot of the times it wasn't really eyeshadow. It was just like the thick black eyeliner with mascara and the foundation. And I never wore like lip lip gloss or lipstick. And I didn't make this connection either until later, but if my lips were ever like a little extra pink naturally, I would actually like kind of take some of the foundation and kind of like spread it, like basically have like a neutral color that I would put on my lips so that they would not be red. And and like looking back now, I'm like, oh wow, like of course, because I got bullied for having red lips, and then I was told I was ugly, so I, like, covered my face, and, it felt like, "Okay, if I cover my face, I'm protecting myself." It was my shield. I hid behind it, essentially, so that I wouldn't get hurt, and so then makeup became a regular routine. But it got so bad that, like, in my 20s, I would never go outside without having my entire face painted up, And what I realized was that now that this was my routine, this was normal. I identified with that version of me. So at the end of the night, when I was taking my makeup off, the person that was under the makeup in the mirror, I thought that person was ugly. I viewed myself as ugly. I took on the belief of my classmate because it got so ingrained in my subconscious that it's so crazy how one person can pick on one aspect or one thing about you, and then it just gets cemented in your subconscious that, oh, that must be true. It's crazy how our brains work. However, so then there's the dilemma of, I don't feel good about this, and if you can resonate with this, I want to kind of share how I got out of this belief system that I was ugly and how I got to a point where I can be no makeup on camera. This is going to post publicly to YouTube. Anyone in the world can see my natural face, right? And I don't care. I don't care. I feel good about myself. I love myself for exactly who I am now. I do not need makeup. I still wear makeup, and I'm not saying that wearing makeup is bad. What I'm trying to get at is if you wear makeup religiously as a way to protect yourself from past bullying or past, if you don't love who you are without the makeup, this is for you. Because I got to a point where I hated that it was controlling my life. It controlled an aspect of my life. I would always take so long to get ready because I had to have that shield on. And I remember even my ex-husband mentioning this. You know, one day he mentioned like he was like, let's go out to eat or something. And I was like, okay, let me get ready. And he made a comment about how it takes me so long to get ready. And it was so true. Um, but I couldn't break away from that. I couldn't just be like, yeah, let's go. um, and so that really kind of, when he made that comment, that was kind of when I was like, ooh, you're right. I do take a long time to get ready. And I would love to be able to just be like, yeah, let's go. It felt so freeing to think about that. So, how did I get to this point? So, first off, I made the connection that I made the realization, the connection that the reason why I'm not okay with my face without makeup stemmed from this person from my past that bullied me. So making that connection and then asking myself, well, why did she do that? And for me, I was able to easily depict why she did this because in the Latin culture, lighter skin is considered prettier. Like they really like lighter skin. And so so before I came into that school, there were no white people there. Okay. It was a Latin school in Honduras. And so there were different it wasn't everyone wasn't from Honduras. Like I had friends from Colombia, Venezuela, Guatemala, so from these different countries, but there was nobody from the United States. There were no white people. And so when I came into this school, now I'm the whitest person in the class. Now, when I look back at photos and everything, I realized, oh, she's a very light-skinned girl. Like she was the lightest skin out of all of our classmates before I arrived, and almost to the point where, she had very light skin. But then I'm like super white, right? I'm like ghostly. And so I came in and now I'm whiter than her. So it may have stemmed from a jealousy thing of like, how dare you come in and be I don't know. I kind of feel like that was where it came from, even if she wasn't aware of it. So once I made the connection that I kind of figured out why she bullied me in the first place. So then I realized, well, what she was saying probably wasn't even true. It was just trying to get back at me, right? It was trying to like lash out and, whatever she was feeling inside that she didn't understand because we're in fifth and sixth grade, we're young, right? It was a way of attacking me and making her feel better. So then when I realized that, I was like, oh, well, maybe I'm not ugly. Okay. And anyone who bullies you, there is a reason for it. There is something going on in their life situation that makes them feel powerless sometimes or is hurting them, and hurt people. So if you have a bully in school, more than likely there's something in their life, in their personal life, maybe probably if we're talking about younger students, something in their household that is hurting them and they don't know how to deal with it. They don't know how to handle those emotions. And so naturally, they're going to attack someone else because if you're hurt and you can hurt someone else, it makes you feel a little bit better in the moment. So if you're being bullied right now, know that it's not you. The issue they have isn't really about you. And sometimes it's because there's something about you that they find threatening. So maybe they think you're prettier than themselves, and that stirs up something in them that they want to like break, then they want to attack you so that they feel better about themselves. So if you're being bullied right now, I feel you. I am so sorry that you're being bullied right now. It's not because of you. Um, it's whatever you're doing or they're bullying about you. Don't try to change who you are, please. Just know that every single person is unique and we need unique. We need all the things about you that make you so unique that people might pick on you. Because humans are social creatures. And so going through school, that's usually typically the area that we get bullied a lot in. But we're social creatures. And so naturally, we want to connect with people. And so naturally, we want to fit in. We want to have people who like us. And so there's this whole psychological aspect of, you know, there's so much more going on behind the bullying. So just know that. So once you find kind of like where the issue came from, like why do you think you're ugly? So this can go for anything about yourself. Like, why do I feel this way about myself? So ask yourself that. Why do I feel so for me, this one's about covering up your face, like hiding behind a mask, thinking you think you're ugly. Why do you think you're ugly? Find the root cause of why you think you're ugly. And then ask yourself, is this really true? Is this really true? do, let's say, like, if you have an imperfection, look at someone out there that has not been photoshopped, that maybe has a similar thing on their face, but you see that as unique. Like, look at some of the celebrities. Okay, I'm not huge on celebrities. I don't really watch a lot of movies. I don't remember their names. I don't care. But there are certain celebrities in certain movies that you know who they are because of something on their face, something that makes them distinct, something that is maybe the not considered, like, the photoshopped models in magazines and everything that they're trying to push on women, being like, oh, this is beauty. You're beauty if you're flawless. But that's not true. That is so not true, because we like certain celebrities, and we actually, because we've identified them with whatever it is about themselves that might otherwise be considered an imperfection, but we have identified that with them. That's their identity, and we like them anyway, right? We would never be like, oh, okay, I hope I get this right. Morgan Freeman, he has little spots, on his face. I would never want him to not have those little spots, because that's how I identify him. Like, that makes him unique. That makes him him, and there's other celebrities I don't remember names of, so I'm not even going to try. But there's certain aspects about who they are, what they look like, that maybe if they weren't a celebrity, just a normal person on the street, maybe somebody would judge them for it. But why do we do that? Why do we not judge celebrities for that, but we would judge someone just on the street? Anyway, okay, you can learn to love anything that you consider a flaw right now, because none of it is a flaw. None of who you are is a flaw. So identify why you believe what you believe. Kind of try to figure out where that came from, and if it was from bullying, know that the reason they bullied you had nothing to do with you. Like, I've been bullied by guys in school that never even once had a conversation with me. Okay, so there was just something about me that they picked me as a target, but it had nothing to do with me. It had everything to do with them. Okay, so now that we know that, now that we can honestly see, like, okay, the bullying is a them issue. It's not an us issue. Now we can start figuring out how to start accepting this. So, personally, what I did and what I would recommend doing is, I mean, if you want to do exposure therapy and just go all out and just be like, okay, today I'm going to go walk outside, maybe even just walk on your neighborhood, and I'm going to not put makeup on. And I'm going to just walk out there, and you might have some inner turmoil, inner emotional turmoil of, like, self-conscious things coming up, like feeling self-conscious about you. But honestly, if you do this and you walk by someone, pay attention. Do they look at you differently? Probably not. Do they stare at that one thing that you think is ugly or you think is an imperfection? And, like, probably not. It's so blown up in our own heads. But when you actually go out without the thing that is covering it up, you start to realize no one cares. No one really cares. Okay, in school, in high school, in junior high, you might get picked on. Like, that's a whole nother territory of, school bullying. But what I would encourage you to try to do, and this might be, who I'm talking to is probably people that have gone through bullying in their past, and now they're an adult and they've realized this is a burden. Because in high school, it was fun to put makeup on every day. I had no issue with it. I had no issue with it until I was in my 20s, and I realized it was hindering me. I realized it was taking up too much of my time, and it was, yeah. So I'm kind of talking mainly to people who are out of school, but if you are in school, this applies to you as well. So maybe start by putting less makeup on. So if you do heavy foundation, try doing a very light layer. That's it. Still do your eyes, whatever, but start with, like, lightening it up, not applying as much. Okay. And you can like slowly do this over time. And that's kind of what I did. I slowly started, subtracting different things of different makeup. Like I wouldn't do the eyeliner and I would just do a light layer, not a heavy layer of foundation and mascara. Like that's basically the only thing I will put on nowadays is a very light layer of foundation. And it's actually a foundation that's really good for my skin. So I use Yensa. It just happened to be right here. But it has like vitamin C, E, ferulic back and stuff that I can't pronounce, but there's um there's things in this foundation that's actually healthy for my skin. But this tube has lasted me well over a year, and I still have almost half of it. So I do not put on a lot. I put on tiny dot, and that's it. So, and then mascara. Like that's what I'll go out in if I do that because I don't look much different. That's the thing is I'm not altering the way I look. So start to eliminate some parts of your makeup routine that you really don't need and you can lighten up and it's still fine and you still feel protected. Also, I don't want you to take it all off and go out and feel super vulnerable and exposed and then start feeling even worse. So like go at your own pace, find what you're okay with and start eliminating it and then what I want you to also do is when you're taking it off in the at night or whatever, and you're natural or in the morning before you put it on, I want you to look at yourself in the mirror and every day tell yourself that you're beautiful just the way you are. I am beautiful just the way I am. I am okay just the way I am. There is nothing wrong with me. This is nothing about me is flawed. I am perfectly created. Okay. So start telling yourself that without the makeup before you put it on, after you take it off. Start doing this. Make this a habit, okay? Make this a habit because the more you talk to yourself in the mirror, especially when you're looking yourself in the eyes and you're like seeing the thing that you would normally feel subconscious about, or um, self-conscious about, once you start telling yourself, like, because somebody told you something else, right? And you took that as truth. So now you can rewire your brain and put a new belief in there. If you want to love yourself the way you are, tell yourself that you love yourself the way you are, that there's nothing wrong with you. And over time, make this a habit. This is going to take some time, but over time, you're going to start realizing that, oh, I don't feel as ugly when I look at myself without makeup. I don't feel as blah 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 about that thing about myself. So over time, it's going to lessen, and then that's when you can also start really, if you can start taking more makeup off, and then one day you're just going to get to the point where you have no makeup on and you're like, I want to go grab coffee, I want to go do this, and you're going to be like, okay, I'm not going to okay, let's go. Okay, and that's going to be so freeing. So just as you're doing this and as you're repeating this habit and as you're trying to make a new habit, because habits are hard to create, as you're doing this, just remind yourself of the freedom you are going to feel when that belief system gets rewired and you now feel a completely different way about yourself. Okay, it was so freeing for me to get to this point. And it took some time. It took some time, but you know what? It was so worth it and it didn't take any extra time, Just telling yourself like I am okay, I'm beautiful the way I am. It takes a few seconds when you're looking in the mirror. You can say this internally too as you're brushing your teeth, as you're taking the makeup off. So just start being kinder to yourself about the thing that you're so self conscious about. And over time, by telling yourself that you're beautiful, you are going to rewire that subconscious belief. And then one day you're going to look back and you're going to think about that bully, and there's going to be no emotional response to it. You're going to be like, yeah, okay. But it didn't permanently affect me. Okay, that's what we want to get. We don't want the bullying to permanently affect us for the rest of our life. So we want to undo the belief systems that we took in from other people who weren't even concerned about the effects it was having on us. And it didn't even have to do with us in the first place. It had to do with something that they were dealing with within themselves. So learn to love yourself. Make it a habit of telling yourself that you're beautiful just the way you are. And then eventually you'll believe it. So if this resonated with you, definitely subscribe. I love to talk about ways that you can learn how to love yourself, come back from trauma, any kind of trauma. Bullying is trauma. It's definitely trauma. It made you switch your habits, right? It made you switch the way you thought about yourself. That's trauma. So definitely subscribe. Like this video if you want other people to see it as well. And until the next one, have a wonderful day. And don't forget to start taking off that makeup.